Everybody in their grid positions. The green flag is now in the air.
Oh no, Germandi makes a mistake! It's free wide! It's a free wide here in Salzburg. This is absolutely unbelievable!
A warm welcome to everyone joining us from all over the world. We are here at Autodrom Most for the third round of the TCR Eastern Europe season here in 2025. We are getting ready to start this weekend with some rain, as the weather is starting to play a pivotal role this weekend, and we are ready to watch the opening race of this third round of the 2025 season with some drops of rain starting to fall from the sky. We are here with our pole sitter and championship leader Adam Coate with his Hyundai Elantra and TCR, of course, one of the most complex TCR cars available to the general public, one of the most beautiful ones as well, if I may say so myself. Here is the starting grid with Coate and Martin Kadlecic, the two main rivals for the title this year, starting from the front row, and the guy who is in third place, Bartosz Grożek, is also in third place in the driver's standings. Watch out for the ever-aggressive Giacomo Germandi in fourth position. He was able to take the win this year in round one at the Red Bull Ring in the second race of the season. Only 3 drivers were able to take victories this year. Of course, the aforementioned Germandi and the top 2 of the championship, Adam Coate, taking victories in race 1 at the Red Bull Ring and race 2 at the Salzburg Ring. And then Martin Kadlecic, the guy who we just saw with the cameras, taking the win in race number 3 of the season, the one at the Salzburg Ring. Here is his teammate, car number 97, Bartosz Grożek. Of course, able to finish 3 times on the podium, always in second position, never, unfortunately, able to take that elusive victory. Could this be the moment he was waiting for? We'll see in just a little over half an hour, as of course the opening race of this weekend will tell us a great deal about how the championship fight will line up and will at one point shape the championship. Here you can see also the Cupras of Express Auto Racing getting ready to start from the back of the grid. Radoslav Obertal and Vitus Meikal starting from 10th and 9th respectively. There's 10 cars entered this weekend. Quite tough, of course, to have many entries in a series such as TCR, of course, with no real changes to the regulations. But as always, TCR Eastern Europe playing a pivotal role in these types of championships, being, in fact, one of the most important series for touring car racing in the entire Europe. Here we are with the formation lap that has started right about now, and this gives us the perfect opportunity to talk about the Autodrom Most a bit. It is a 4.2 kilometer circuit opened in 1983, which has promoted a plethora of series since breaking ground a little over 42 years ago. Naturally, the Most area here in the Czech Republic has had a great tradition with racing even before the opening of this circuit back in the 50s. The first few races of both cars and bikes were held in the city before, of course, the decision was made to create a circuit in and of itself. And here is the beautiful Autodrom Most. 21 corners, 12 to the right and 9 to the left, that create such a special circuit for what is one of the go-to races of the season. Waiting, of course, for the cars now to come through the second half of the lap. You can see the industrial area of the city right behind the corners, being, of course, one of these incredible centers for the economy of the country as well. Not just that, of course. It is pivotal for these circuits to host as many races as possible, and of course for TCR Racing, this track is no stranger to even the greatest amount of touring car racing. In 2021, in fact, it was the Autodrom Most who was selected to host the WTCR race of the Czech Republic for the World Championships, and before that the European Touring Car Cup in 2017. And naturally, of course, TCR Eastern Europe has become one of the staple events of this circuit. Meanwhile, we are ready to get things underway here, as we see all the different cars getting ready off of the final corner. Adam Coate on pole position, Martin Kadlecik in second place, Bartosz Grozek in third, and Giacomo Germandi in fourth position. Those are not only the top 4 drivers of this morning's qualifying session, but they're also the top 4 drivers in the overall standings after the first 2 rounds. And here we go in Autodrom Most for race number 3. You can see the conditions starting to be very challenging as the track gets wetter and wetter, with a bit of drops of rain falling from the sky before the start of this 25-minute event, as the lights turn from red. And we are underway with a shaky start for the front row of the grid, giving Bartosz Grozek the chance of jumping at least Adam Coate, and it's Martin Kadlecik in first position, as the 2 drivers from Additis Racing had a better jump compared to Adam Coate, who's now dropped to third place on the grid. And meanwhile, Giacomo Germandi is hot on his heels. Currently in fourth is the Italian. Behind him, there's also Petr Cizek and Jiří Božinek, who are fighting for fifth position currently. But it's an amazing getaway for Additis Racing, and most importantly, Martin Kadlecik, as the driver who is in the hot seat for race number 1, is now leading proceedings just ahead of his teammate Bartosz Grozek. Home hero Adam Coate slipping down to third place. Jiří Božinek, his teammate, fighting for fifth. Between them, Giacomo Germandi of Motorsport, the Italian outfit. Of course, racing here in TCR Eastern Europe since a couple of seasons now, with Germandi finally able to take his win this year at the Red Bull Ring. Meanwhile, Radoslav Obertal struggling a bit with his Cupra, but here is the fight for the lead, and look at how Grozek is fighting against the car on the slippery conditions. They are not used to this rain today. We had a heavy rainfall yesterday in the afternoon, but this morning everything was smooth sailing weather-wise for our drivers. You can see the windshield wipers going off on all cars as Germandi loses the back end of his Honda, the new Civic FL5, the new model that started off in 2023, as now we see the fight for the lead to go towards turn number 1, as Kadlecik was a bit wide in turn 21, and therefore Bartosz Grozek goes to the outside. The same goes for Giacomo Germandi, with a very aggressive move to the outside of Adam Coate to take in third place. Phenomenal overtake from Germandi, whereas Grozek wasn't able to do the same on Martin Kadlecik. Let's see if Coate can maybe try and overtake Germandi following the Italian's move into turn number 1 around the outside. That is not the case, and Germandi is up to third, and Coate struggling out here in race number 1, now down to fourth from the lead, as he had taken pole position, which looked like a phenomenal way to start off the weekend. Meanwhile, we see Radoslav Obertal spinning out in turn number 20. It's not an easy start for him whatsoever. Let's not forget that he is sharing car number 69 together with his teammate Petr Žilagi, who will be seeing in action on Sunday for race number 2. Naturally, we're also trying to see whether or not the top 3 will be able to make a bit of a gap over Adam Cote. That does not look like the case, as he is hot on Germandi's heels. This is a very entertaining fight so far in a race that has become wetter and wetter since the beginning. The rain still falling down pretty hard as Martin Kadlejczyk leads the way with a second of a gap over Grozek. This time Germandi tries a bit too hard into turn number 1, overshoots the corner and has to go through the escape roads, which is very similar to the one that he has found throughout his early career in Monza. I'm pretty sure that he will have to get out of the way of Grozek to give the place back, and that is exactly what's happening. Bit of a lockup for Kadlejczyk as well, meaning that no one is safe at this stage of the race. We're still inside the opening 5 minutes with Kadlejczyk and Grozek still in a Aretis Racing 1-2, as Giacomo Germandi tries his absolute best in order to stay together with the two of them. He had tried the move on Grozek, not working out unfortunately for him, though he now has another chance through lap number 3. Of course, we're trying to find out who is going to become the successor of two-time champion Macho Homola, but there's a half spin for Grozek, who is very capable of keeping the control of his car and not spinning out, which would have been a disaster for him. But unfortunately, this means that he is down to 4th, potentially even 5th position, as Germandi now locks his front right tire in a fight for second with Adam Cote, as the Italian is on the very wet curb in turn number 20. Meanwhile, there's also a move from car number 14, Petr Čížek, in the new Cupra VZ car of Express Auto Racing, as he goes side by side together with Grozek in the fight for 4th position. There's also Zbožínek in the other Hyundai. Round the outside goes Grozek into turn number 1. Let's see if the Cupra will be able to do the switchback. It doesn't look like it, and therefore Grozek is up into 4th once more, with Germandi still keeping 2nd position on Adam Cote. That was a very, very good overtake from Grozek in the face of adversity as well, trying to figure out what to do, and he was brilliant in getting the place back. Naturally, of course, he's going to try and climb back up the field. We saw how difficult it was in the opening stages of the race, with the rain falling pretty hard from the sky. We're speaking about who is going to take Macho Homola's place as the king of TCR Eastern Europe, after Homola took the title in both 2023 and 2024, now moving to the GT2 European Series with RTR Projects, the team that we've seen this weekend in the GT Cup Series, especially with the Mercedes-AMG GT2. Meanwhile, Germandi is wide into turn number 20, clipping the gravel but being able to stay in 2nd position. Meanwhile, Čížek has overtaken Grozek for 4th position, as the Aretis Racing driver is now down to 5th and into the hands of Jiří Zbožínek, who is now into 6th position and looking for a spot in the top 5. Meanwhile, Martin Kadlejczyk enjoying his time out front with a phenomenal performance so far, in the lead by more than 2 seconds. Germandi in 2nd, Adam Cote in 3rd position, and now Grozek fighting hard to stay in 5th. It's not the easiest couple of laps for him. He was looking to become a serious threat to his teammates' chances at a win, but unfortunately for Křenek, that does not look like the case anymore, as he's down to 5th position, whereas Martin Kadlecik is still out front with car number 301. And that was, of course, the best start possible for him, being able to make many inroads compared to his main rivals, especially Adam Coate, who was struggling, to say the least, in the opening part of the race. This was a shame for him, but of course helped the others quite a bit, as now you can see the two drivers, Giacomo Germandi and Adam Coate, in 2nd and 3rd position respectively, trying to make their way through this final part of the corner. And here you see the struggling Křenek dropping to 6th as Iris Božinek has overtaken him at the end of lap number 4. We're now into lap number 5 with Martin Kadlecik. Giacomo Germandi is in 2nd. He's trying to match the pace of the Czech driver, and actually Germandi has gained 0.5 of a second in the previous lap, meaning that he could be well and truly on his way to at least try and fight for what is the lead and what could be a potential victory. Those are the 3 drivers who were able to finish on the top step of the podium in the first 4 races. Adam Coate being the only repeat winner of this season so far, taking home success in races number 1 and 4, and currently leading the championship by 7 points coming into this round. As now you see Adam Coate trying to work his best to try and overtake Giacomo Germandi. However, we all know the Italian's race style, being very aggressive, once again defending the inside line, but he has been mighty quick this season. Looking for yet another podium finish following the victory he took at the Red Bull Ring in race number 2. Then finishing in 8th position in race number 1 and in 6th place in race number 1 at the Salzburg Ring as well. Unfortunately missing out on the points in the 2nd round of the season in race number 2, which has left him a good 25 points behind Adam Coate. His comeback starting right here from Most, as home hero Martin Kadlecik still in the lead with a 2-second gap over Giacomo Germandi, who has now lost a bit in the previous lap. 1:43.9 for Germandi, 1:43.7 for Kadlecik, which is also the fastest lap of the race. It's not a surprise, of course, seeing just how quick he can be. Meanwhile, Adam Coate, perhaps the quickest driver so far this season, stuck behind Giacomo Germandi, who is a tough nut to crack, and we all know how complicated it is to get around the Italian, who has plenty of experience in TCR racing. Meanwhile, there's one of the Artis racing cars that is going slowly, and that is Křenek, who's dropped to 9th in the standings and now lapped from Martin Kadlecik. So it's likely that he wasn't struggling, but he was just having an issue with his car, which is unfortunately now out of contention for a podium place and perhaps even points, as he looks to try and get back to the pits. Of course, with only 10 entries, even finishing the race in last place would guarantee points, and that is super important for all drivers who are fighting for the title, and Křenek is of course one of them, being in 3rd place so far with 3 second place finishes in this season so far. Meanwhile, we're having a look at the fight for second once more, as Adam Colt, as you can see, draws ever so closely to the back of Giacomo Germandi. He's trying his absolute best to make his way through to second position and perhaps even getting around Martin Kadlecik for the win, though that's going to be very difficult to do, especially given Kadlecik and his pace around here, which has looked absolutely phenomenal so far. It is not a surprise to see him this quick, of course. He was already one of the main threats last year, taking home consistently some points finishes and podium finishes too. All of this while being of such young age, of course, being part of the big pool of talents of TCR Racing. Now you can see that Germandi has built a bit of a gap over Adam Colt. 0.7 of a second on the Czech driver, who looked to get ever so closer in the first half of the racetrack, and then Germandi with a blistering time in the final sector. The best out of everyone today with a 41.7, drawing closer to Kadlecik, who had, however, extended his lead in the two sectors prior to that. Now the gap being 2.5 seconds in favor of Martin Kadlecik. Giacomo Germandi keeping second position, and behind him, of course, Adam Colt fighting hard to try and keep Germandi on his toes, not leaving him any room to breathe. As you can see how close he is through turns number 13, 14 and 15, starting the final sector. Here he is, trying maybe the switchback over Germandi, who is, however, defending brilliantly over Adam Colt. Just 9 minutes and 35 seconds left in this race, the first one of the two scheduled this weekend. Of course, race number 2 taking place tomorrow on Sunday, as the drivers will get out on track at 14:30 local time, around the same time frame that we saw today, this time though for race number 2. Meanwhile, Martin Kadlecik starts lap number 9. 1:42.1 was the lap for Kadlecik. Times are improving, which means that the racetrack is starting to get drier and drier, the rain having stopped seemingly, as Kadlecik is now 3.3 seconds clear of Germandi, who, yes, he made his best lap of the session with a 1:42.8 in the previous lap, but unfortunately he has lost 7/10 in the last 4.2 kilometers compared to Kadlecik. Also clipping the gravel and the sand out of turn 8, as Adam Colt is now ever closer to the back of the Italian driver, who is of course fighting for his second podium finish of the season. Colt, on the other hand, has already taken 2 wins and a further second place, meaning that he is leading the standings, though not for long if this keeps on going, because he had a 5-point gap over Martin Kadlecik coming into this round. He's increased that to 6th, thanks to the pole position that he took home, with Kadlecik finishing in 2nd, therefore earning 3 and 2 points respectively for their qualified performance. But if the results were to stay like this, Kadlecik would earn 7 points more than Colt for this race result, plus the additional point for the fastest lap of the race, meaning that he would move into the lead of the standings with just 2 points over Colt in what is a very, very tight classification up top. Meanwhile, Germandi is looking to restart his championship hopes following what was a very tough performance in Salzburg, at the Salzburg ring, where he finished 6th in race 1 and did not finish in the points in race number 2, meaning that he lost touch with the lead, as he was leading the championship by then, but unfortunately for him, Kalocic and Cote finishing on the podium once more. Cote himself winning in race number 4, and Kalocic finishing in 3rd place. Never off the podium, Kalocic, this season. 3 times on the bottom step of the podium, and of course 1 victory in race number 1 at the Salzburg ring. Once again, Cote is basically studying the back of Giacomo Germandi, and this is actually helping Petr Cížek draw ever so closer to the back of Adam Cote, adding the Cupra to the equation as well. Cížek having the newer version of the Cupra, the VZ model, compared to the Leon Competition that other drivers such as Peter Semerad and this weekend especially Peter Gilagi and Radosław Obertal are rocking. Let's see if Cote now has a chance to look to the inside. That is not the case. He stays into 3rd, but though he is looking very dangerous behind Germandi, and perhaps that could be what plays a huge favor and huge factor in today's race, at least in the final 5 minutes, as Cote now looks to the outside. He is not, however, close enough to try and make a move. Now looks to the inside into turn 10, but Germandi is as solid as a rock, trying, of course, to make his way through this part of the race. Here he is, Adam Cote, looking to the outside now into turn 16. That could have been an opening for him, though he was not able to take it. Not right now, at least. And here is Petr Cížek as well, looking very dangerous in the mirrors of Adam Cote. Could he be a surprise attack for 3rd place, leaving Adam Cote hung out to dry? That could certainly be a turning point for the season, as now Cote has lost a bit of time compared to Giacomo Germandi. The latter now having a small 1/10 advantage, which could prove in very handy come the end of the race. 3 of them go now into the final part of the track, or the race, I should say, as we are still into the 1st sector. Cote trying to be more precise than Germandi, who has the raw speed, however, to excel in this part of the race. And he looks to be dangerously quick as well. The same goes for Petr Cížek, however. He is looking fantastic today with his Cupra, being as solid as it ever was throughout this year. And there's a spin for Germandi into turn 13. We were talking about how aggressive he was being on such a slippery surface, and unfortunately for Germandi, everything and all of his efforts come undone with just less than 3 minutes to go. Such a shame for Giacomo Germandi, as he spins out of the race. It's not looking likely for him to rejoin as well, as he looks to be beached in the gravel. We're waiting for a replay to see whether or not there was contact with Adam Cote, who was looking to the inside of the Italian. And if there was contact, the stewards will for sure have something to say about that. It's very hard to judge because there's the All-in bridge right in front of the camera where the alleged contact happened. It looked like Germandi got tagged on the rear right from Adam Cote, but we'll have to wait because of course the images were not as clear as we wanted. But by the way that the car cut through turn 15 to the inside gravel, well, the inside grass actually, it really looked like the two of them actually touched. But meanwhile, this does not affect Martin Kadlecik whatsoever. His race has been absolutely phenomenal up to this point, with a 6.5 second gap over Adam Cote, who's now been promoted to second. But however, that's not going to be enough for the championship lead still, which is of course such an important factor so far. And here Kadlecik starts what looks to be the final lap of the race. Phenomenal performance for the home hero, as Czech drivers are currently covering the top 4 of the standings, for the joy of the many fans actually that came here at Most to try and see the drivers do well, and they're definitely being repaid with an excellent performance of their own heroes. Here you see Martin Kadlecik working hard behind the wheel of the Audi RS3, of course a car that has been discontinued in production and in the support technically and mechanically from Audi, but private teams are still working hard with the RS3, which has shaped the TCR scene for good since its beginning. And here you can see Germandi's car still being beached in the gravel, which is so unfortunate for the Italian. He was looking so good for another podium and perhaps even second place, and unfortunately for him, there's the second race in a row where he's not going to get points. Meanwhile though, it is perfection for Martin Kadlecik, as he is now rounding out the final corner of the racetrack and the race itself to take the checkered flag and the win in race number 1 here at Most. A perfect start to the season for Kadlecik becomes even better now as he soars into the championship lead here in TCR Eastern Europe in 2025. What a phenomenal performance from him. He was looking so good throughout the opening stages of the race, but no one really thought that he was going to be this quick throughout. Well, they were mistaken, as he was in fact able to keep it up and finish in a lovely first place, taking the first win of this weekend and his second race victory of the season after the great showing that he had at the Salzburg Ring in race number 1, as Kadlecik now takes the championship lead by just 2 points. Actually, he should be now level with Cote, as on the final lap it was Adam Cote who took the fastest lap of the race by just 22 thousandths of a second. Therefore Kadlecik only gained 6 points instead of 8, and those were the points that were separating Cote and Kadlecik before this round. Therefore it's the best scenario that we could have hoped for here for TCR Eastern Europe, as the top 2 are leading the championship simultaneously. What an incredible way to finish off this first race of the weekend, as Adam Coate is in second position, and now the joint championship leader together with Martin Kadlecik as the two home heroes will battle it out on Sunday to decide who is going to come out of this weekend on top. Here are the final standings with Martin Kadlecik, Adam Coate and Petr Čížek rounding out an all-Czech podium. Ivar Svalers does well enough to propel himself up to 5th in a tough race, with Giacomo Germandi and Bartosz Grożek unfortunately DNFing from this opening race of what looks to be a season-defining weekend here in Autodrom Most. Let's now look at the highlights of this incredible race number 1 for TCR Eastern Europe. And those are the highlights of race number 1 for TCR Eastern Europe, the 3rd round of the season that saw Martin Kadlecik take the win. And that is all from us. Thank you for following this opening race of round number 3 of the series. Of course, we're going to see each other for race number 2 on Sunday at 14:30 local time. Thanks for being with us, and see you guys next time.